maybe it's redundant to say it, but I don't know what could be, of tremendous benefit and what is actually redundant. So I will say it again and again and again. I need to be rescued, me and my daughters, and of course their mother. The girls need mother from this Nazi prison. This should be done using arms and legs. It is strictly forbidden to speak with the Israelis. Speaking with the Israelis will cause great harm to humanity. Although, maybe this is truly, maybe perhaps this is really redundant, but anyway I will say it, just to clarify my position, which is not new, but maybe it should be reiterated. There is nothing more repulsive that I can think about right now than dealing like buying me from the Israelis, like paying them or giving them any sort of benefit in exchange for my release or the release of my daughters or the release of anyone. This is repulsive, and of course it's a sin. We need to be rescued using arms and legs. No speech and certainly no trade. Maybe it's a good time to actually say a couple of words regarding my former significant other. It's not new, and I've spoken about it in the past, but I think it's a good time to mention this issue. Of course, our relationship was not very successful, and probably it was rooted in mistake, even though, of course, a very happy mistake, because after all, we have that, incredible, legacy of this relationship, the double legacy. But without any relation, what I'm going to say now is I don't see how it actually relates to our relationship. This is something that is just another horrible crime of the state of Israel. Like the Mossad and also the Shabak, that are actually very similar because they all contain shit. And it doesn't matter if it's of course the Mossad is more affiliated with the Americans, and this is something that I understood not from the beginning, but also a couple of years ago. And I actually said that the Americans actually control it in the highest level. Of course, it was not always like that. It started during the 70s and culminated in the 90s. And of course, it's for the best because, giving the circumstances, because the Mossad was the most horrible organization in the world during the 60s and 70s, and the list of crimes that they committed is unbelievable. They had to be stopped, and the only way to actually do it, the best way would be to eliminate the state of Israel. But given that the superpowers didn't do it, the only others temporary solution. It wasn't really a solution because it didn't solve the major problem. But a kind of solution would be for the Americans to take over the Mossad, and it wasn't a solution because they still tortured us, and to this day, the foreigners, and this is the major issue. And of course, the Shabak is more affiliated with. I'm not certain that Russia. Also Russia itself, as a country, as a state, as a federation, but much more so. In its culture, and I've spoken about it quite a bit during the last 2 weeks. The method and the Russian, the totalitarian states, and the self-indoctrination, and there's, of course, there is a lot more to speak about. Actually, it's just not in a very pressing issue. A very important thing that I just mentioned, in just a bit, I just mentioned it. That is the issue of the theater, which is also very important. It was very important in Soviet Russia, the Soviet Empire, the issue of the theater, that everything is a theater show, and everybody is actors in a theater show, And this is something that you can see in Israel, and especially inside the Shabak. Like, I mean, and yes, I mean, you can argue that it's like that in every like intelligence organization, but it's not, because here, I mean, it's like they fetishize like the theater, like the show. I mean, like in Marxist like terms, like they make it like was something that, I mean, is like, I mean, with this without relation to to its intrinsic value. But I don't want to get into philosophy right now. But of course, I mean, this issue of the theater is also was very like strong in in the Soviet Empire, and also in the Shabak. But let me get back to, I mean, to one very disgusting issue that was never changed, and it was like that since the like the beginning. I mean, since the 60s at least. So the Mossad, it can also be done by the Shabak, but I mean, typically the Mossad, what they do is, I mean, that they recruit like a young woman, beautiful woman, like an Israeli beautiful woman. It's something that they actually do quite a bit. I mean, it's common. It is actually known even in the public, and it's true. And they have a way to make her their slave for like eternity, like bona fide slave. What they do is that they very easily, I mean, they take, I mean, just a young woman, I mean, if she's clueless, it's best from their perspective. So they just send her like to a mission that, I mean, it will be so easy for them to actually frame her like with like something like betrayal. And I mean, if you know even just a tiny bit about the Mossad and the Shabak, and of course that most of my listeners know a lot about them, you know that, I mean, I mean, framing is not just another thing that they do. I mean, framing is a huge, like, I mean, framing is it's a cultural like state of mind for them. Like, they do it. I mean, they always think like how to frame like other people. I mean, even inside their own organization, especially inside their organization, it's a state of mind. It's like a state of it's something that they always do. So yes, of course, that they have tremendous amount of way to actually frame like young women like that, and of course, then she's like caught like marshaled in Israel, and the verdict is, of course, I mean, theoretically for betrayal is death penalty in Israel, but it's not true that it's never applied, but because many times it actually does. I mean, the public doesn't know about it. But of course, they don't want to kill her. They want her to be their slave, and I mean, the verdict is something like now she's a slave forever. Like, she cannot marry, she cannot have children. I mean, unless it's part of the plan, like unless she's told to marry someone and to have children with him, and of course until they divorce. I mean, everything is coordinated by the Mossad like forever, and that's, I mean, how they have slaves, and they need the slaves because, I mean, traditionally, I would say in the 50s and the 60s, this kind of like jobs were done by the Venusians, like the Titans. But they, I mean, you know, during the 70s, and the 80s, there was the emancipation of the Titans. I mean, this was actually something that, I mean, involved my predecessor, and it didn't turn well because they betrayed him, many of them died, and the other nations stupidly, I mean, sent here like replenishment of both Titans and pedophile scumbags. This was a major mistake. But it's not the subject of this video. The subject is just to say that one of the great sins of this state is that, I mean, they have ways to actually enslave their own people, not only Titans, but just, I mean, Homo sapiens, like young women that they want to like. I mean, yeah, they don't have sex with her because they are all pedophiles and homosexuals. Maybe you can thank the arrangement for this. That, I mean, otherwise she would have been less a sex slave forever for these scumbags. But she's a slave forever. I mean, she have to do whatever they told her forever, including, I mean, and most importantly, I mean, things that belong to her private life. I mean, she doesn't have private life. She will never have private life. She's always with the chip, you know, with the commands from the captain, and of course, everything that, I mean, relates to sex or marriage or single or children is coordinated by the state. Of course, I mean, many times, I mean, this is not new. This was done since like hundreds of years. But many times intelligence services, especially disgusting ones, want to trap like a man, like they if they like there is a man that they see that is might be of significance, or might want to prevent him from becoming significant, or they want maybe to like to aid in becoming significant, but then to blackmail him forever, like, and like, so they like need like to control him in a way. So yeah, I mean, one of the best and well-known methods is to actually trap him with a woman. I mean, it's not new, it's cliche, but it's true. And of course, the people like the Mossad and they like to do it because they're disgusting. They are the most disgusting of all. And of course, that they will preferably, I mean, they don't have to use such a slave as they mentioned, but of course that they will preferably use such a slave because, I mean, like, if she's not a slave, it can also be done, and it was done in the past. But I mean, there is always like the option of her just staying with that man for, I mean, just deciding that, I mean, it's better for her to just, I mean, be like his wife and like you know, and just cancel the show and make the show like reality and stop like communicating with the intelligence service. And there is little they can be done in such occurrences. But of course, if she is a slave, they have the complete right to actually kill her. I mean, if she just on the slightest like sign of disobedience. So if they want to trap like a man, I mean, maybe because they want him to be poor, because I mean they want him to be their slave, because he has also like, I mean, like a special nature perhaps. So yeah, they would try to trap him with like a woman that they have, and preferably that one that is actually their slave. And again, this is not related to the issue of the Titans. I mean, not in a significant matter, because it was done and it is still done without relation to the issue of the Titans. It's only related to the issue of the Titans because, yes, during the 50s and 60s, and before the formal state was established, such things were, I mean, many times were done by the Titans. But I mean, you cannot really seduce like with the Titan unless you want the men to be sick, and this is something that they do, but it's very short term. Like for long-term missions, like the ones that I just, I mean, outlined, I mean, it's better not to use a Titan, because I mean, you want actually a woman that will be able to have sex with the men and like you know, intimate relationship and like things like that. This is the country, this is the state of Israel, this is their cruelty and their madness. Set me free, rescue me and my daughters, and of course their mother, from this Nazi state. So we are doing electrolysis with 3 transformers using containers. The main one that actually was, I mean, they're all sealed now, and the main one that was changed was the one in the middle. It's like I colored the magnet with acrylic, silver acrylic, and prepared like all sort of like small arrangements with symbolic language. Now there's a question of what actually is this actually, but I mean, I've already said what I think, but I asked my daughters, and both of them independently said that these spaceships, and I was very proud, because actually it kind of look like spaceships, and like it's kind of like and it's nice that they're like floating in the air, because it's only like thin wires on like thin like clay. But in the symbolic language, what does it even mean? So what do you think is the answer? I mean, what does it mean in the symbolic language? Because it's there not just for like specifically, not, I mean, I can also do, I can like create sculptures just for artistic reasons, but this is part of the symbolic language. So what does it mean? So I actually mentioned that in the past, but as you know, the silver containers are, this is a silver container inside. The silver container is associated with me. I understood it, and I didn't understand like what's the issue with the Titans. Like, I mean, like presumably they're also like kind of like robots and like made of metal, presumably. Even though I mean my blood is red, I mean like yours. But anyway, yes, I mean so red is your color. I mean fine, like the Homo sapiens color and like silver. I mean, or it's not actually it's not really silver. It's more like metal because silver is actually like the element is actually white. But anyway, you know the color of metallic silver is like the container that is associated with both the Titans and also like myself. And I didn't like for a long time I tried to understand like I mean maybe the Titans have like another like I mean color designation or and then I mean eventually I figured it out that I'm a special case. And yes, the silver or the metallic silver is associated normally with Titans, not with me specifically. There are ways actually not with this regard to the color of the container and the cover to actually I mean designate the container to relate to things that specifically belong to me or to another person. So there are more than many times there is more than one way to actually achieve something using the symbolic language. But I mean, if we speak about the colors of the containers, then yes, the metallic silver is, I mean, associated with Titans, but you can change like I mean their place of origin using the cover. Like you know, blue is associated with Earth, but I don't see a reason like to do it like to use like silver container with blue cover because what it actually means I mean because the cover I mean the person like is like any person is identified with where they're like their homeland like their birthplace and most significantly their homeland like so Titans do not belong to Earth. I mean even if they live in Earth and it's I mean using symbolic language if you create a container which is like silver with a cover which is blue, it will not affect the Titans that live in Israel, like in Israel or any other places in Earth. As I said, it also relates to the Neos because they are also like created and enlarged using that, as you know, the silver, the Titan, like the robotic container, but you can use different kind of like covers because there are different kind of Neos, and I've spoken about it in the past. Anyway, the answer that I've arrived at, like after a lot of thought and experimentation and like meditation on the matter, is that I'm just a special case, and if you want to signify me, yes, you need to use that metallic container, the robotic container, but you also need to actually signify that you're referring to a cherub, because that's the way I'm identified, like I'm a cherub. It's simple, but it's true. So there are several ways to do it, actually. There is not only one way to actually do it. The Neos, they understand symbolic thoughts. It's not that they're not like, I mean, they're not autistic, that, I mean, they need like command, like, I mean, specific. They understand symbolism. It's a major part of their civilization. So in the past, like when I've used like the portable like containers, I've used and I actually used the metallic container with regards to myself. It was very interesting. I speak about it like in other time because it's a new subject and it's very interesting. Like my experimentation with the metallic containers, I mean, in the field, like I mean, when I like in very long hikes, with regards to myself. So you just put charuvs, like the fruit, like I mean, it's like a husk of a fruit. It is common in Israel, endemic to Israel. It's called charuv, which is I mean, it can be read like charuv, like so you can use both of like two charuvs on the top of it, and this signifies me or another cherub. As I said, there are more ways to actually like identify a specific person. But I mean, there is like a more straightforward way to signify cherubs, even though I mean there are many ways to do it because it's a mythical creature with many representation in art, like throughout the Near East. Not only I mean with relation to the Ark of the Covenant, but yes, I mean now probably we associate it mostly with the Ark of the Covenant, even though it it was like the Sphinx in like ancient times, like I mean, but outside of Egypt, like it was the Sphinx of the Near East, very very common. So yes, I mean the most common and like most like I mean I would say the strongest signifier of the cherubs is their depiction over the Ark of the Covenant. But how do they look? I mean, yes, we've seen Indiana Jones in the like Raiders of the Lost Ark, but do they really look that way? I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, there is like a quite like an elaborate depiction of the cherubs, like in the Bible, in the book of Kings 1. I mean, it's King 1. If like according to the Jewish like I mean canon that that is using the terms like I mean the titles of Samuel 1 and 2. I mean, I think that other like Christian denominations sometimes they don't use the title of Samuel and then it's like Kings 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in that case, it will be Kings 3. But these were huge cherubs. They were like 5 meters. Like the wingspan was something like 5 meters. I mean, they occupied the whole room, like were in the temple, and they were made out of wood and was like covered with gold. So it's not exactly what you see in the Ark of the Covenant. In any case, this is, I mean, this just signifies meaning. It means that, I mean, I do things that relates to myself because it's like a metallic container, and the the symbol of, or at least a symbol of the Ark of the Covenant with the cherubs. And here you see other 2 cherubs, like very small ones. And here as well. Yeah, that's why when she was just born. So I think that this will be it for now.